Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be building the SS Anne from Pokemon. So this has been a little bit of a trend recently in the Sims community. I've seen a lot of cruise ships, boats, luxury yachts. I did a pontoon speed build, which some of you were like, I don't even know what a pontoon is, and I found that to be really, really funny because I didn't know that that was maybe more of like a local thing to me. But yeah, this has been a trend and I did want to do another boat. I was thinking about doing a really, really big cruise ship and doing all sorts of crazy stuff, but I couldn't really find a lot in Solani that I was happy with size-wise. This is one of the bigger lots in the game and it still caused me to have to shrink this down quite a bit. So I decided I would go for something a little bit smaller, and this one seems to be on the smaller side, although like I said, I would have liked just a little bit more room to pull it out forward a tiny bit. But the problem is a lot of the lots in the game are half water, half land, and the separation between the two as far as like how much water is on one or how much land is on one is very different depending on which one you pick. So this was the largest one that had a 50-50, but it really didn't grant enough room for this massive cruise ship the way I would have liked to have done it. So instead we're going to be building a bit of a smaller boat today, and this is very, very much built as a livable home more so than anything else. It's going to have somewhat of like a restaurant on the inside, but downstairs, the very bottom floor, I did quite a few rooms and bathrooms, and then there's obviously going to be like a captain's deck and a captain's quarter up at the very top of the ship. So on the thumbnail of my video, I used a little image of the SS Anne, and I don't actually know which Pokemon game that one is taken from, but it is directly ripped from one of the Pokemon games, and that was the one I was using as reference for this entire build, and that one was the one that seemed to give the most detail. Like I've said before in previous Pokemon related videos, usually if I am going to be building something from the Pokemon universe, a lot of times it's changed over time, or it's gotten more detail over time. So obviously the SS Anne in some of the earlier renditions of Pokemon was a very, very simple ship, and then all the way up to, I would say, like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, where we've got modern day graphics and things like that. We've got a little bit more detail going on, and so I was able to see some of the colors and windows and all of that stuff, and ideally that would have been the easiest way to do a one-for-one replica, but I just didn't have the space for it this time around. But I will say this is pretty close and I'm really, really happy with it. I think that it would be a really fun place to live, but you could also obviously use it for like role play and gameplay, and just a fun place. You could also turn it into a restaurant, and I think I have uploaded it to the gallery as a residential, so go ahead and change it to your little heart's desire if you would like, but it's got the capabilities for pretty much anything. I think it would be so fun to play on a boat and just live on a boat in general, so I think that this one creates enough space to do like a pretty large family or anything really that you want to. So the first thing that was the most important was trying to get that general SS Anne shape to it. So it has two smokestacks on it that are very large, and they seem to be half orange, half white. So I was able to find this trim that is normally for like the tops of walls or a roof, and it is this bright orange that has these little posts that come out on the side of it, and it just looked so much like something you would see on an actual steamboat like this. And I did create two of those little stacks. On the inside later on in the video, I actually decided to add a couple of fireplaces in there. So that is for, again, gameplay elements. It's not something that's going to be super functional unless you want it to be. So you can actually teleport your sim in there and then light the fireplaces, and it will create smoke that comes out of the top of those two smokestacks, so that you've got that effect going on, and it gives a little bit more life to the ship overall. And I faced them inward on top of each other later on. This is all later on in the video. I shouldn't even be talking about it yet. But I'm really excited with that little addition because I thought it was a clever way to bring smoke into the smokestacks when we can't actually have like functional ships in the game quite yet. And then the floor directly below that is going to be the captain's deck and the captain's quarters with one of the larger bedrooms. And the 2 floors immediately below that, I think the one below is the restaurant, and the one down even further is going to be a few rooms. And I was actually surprised at the amount of rooms I was able to fit in here, despite me wanting maybe just a couple more tiles of space to pull the ship a little bit forward. And originally I was building and had this foundation that was wrapping all the way around the ship, but later on I do add a dock and delete some of that so that we can get that full floating effect. And it would be really great if we could just put foundation right on the top of water so we don't have to add any kind of foundation underneath, and we could get an actual floating, but we don't quite have that yet. So that's pretty much the best that you can do for now. Although previously I did build a luxury yacht, and one of my problems with it was that in order to get that curved look to it, and basically I did the same thing on the front of this ship as well, you have to use roof pieces, and you can really play with the curves and the manipulation and angles on that kind of stuff, but it has this weird tiling issue where roof pieces can only be so close to water. So on that one, I ended up with this really awkward lip all the way around my luxury yacht, and for this one, I just assumed that I was going to have to do that as well, so I left this really awkward lip all the way around foundation wise and was like, oh, we're just gonna have to leave it to the imagination, people will have to deal with it. But then I went in and started removing some of it, only to find that one of the recent updates to the game must have allowed that change to be made, because I wasn't getting the same error as before. So I was able to remove quite a bit of foundation. I did want to make it so that your sim could still walk up onto the dock, walk all the way to the ship, and just get right in there. So I did keep a piece of it that goes around to the back of the ship where you would actually get in. And those are open archways, not doors. And I only did that because that's primarily what the ship's images were showing. And I know that the idea is that you go into the open doorways and there's probably a second door inside there, but I wanted to have as much space inside as possible, and it would have just taken away a couple of tiles that I really did need for this build. So I did do open archways through the back and through the middle portion where you get to the restaurant and everything. It also helps to create this really airy feel and this light feel, and very bright and sunny, lots of windows, bring lots of the natural light in, so it ends up working out anyway. And those bigger, boxier windows are actually from Get Famous, and I don't think I've ever used them up until this point, but they were so perfectly black and a little bit larger and just like exactly what I was looking for this build. So that was the first time, I think, yeah, that I ended up using those ones, and they are perfect for this ship. And moving on to the downstairs for the actual furnishing. So the way that I thought about this is like very simple hotel rooms. They're going to be very similar to one another. Obviously, like with a hotel, when you're booking a room, depending on the size of the room, there is a little bit of discrepancy as far as like what furniture there is and colors and things like that. But they all tend to be somewhat similar, especially rooms that are the same size. And you can say the same thing for a cruise ship that you're going to stay on. They usually just buy like a bulk furniture and then decorate all the rooms with like the same bed, the same plants, the same decorations, and keep it somewhat simple because it's not meant to be like a actual home. It's more like you're going to stay here for a few days, so they don't over clutter the room. So we're going very simple with the actual decoration of some of these rooms, obviously using colors that are very predictable, like the navies, the blues, white, gray, keeping it very oceanic and like nautical themed, and a couple of decorations here and there. But each of the rooms are a little bit different in various ways. So some of them do have the double bed for 2 sims. 1 or 2 of them have an attached extra shower, which I thought would be like an extra cool little amenity that people could get, like the room with the shower that has its own shower. And then there is one of the rooms that I did is attached so that it's almost like a dual room where you would have one door separating between the two. So it's for like a family and 2 children, and then you could walk in between the 2 rooms rather than just having like your own private suite. And And yeah, we're going to do actually quite a few rooms, and they're all, like I said, slightly different, and they all had to be slightly facing a different direction so that I could keep all of the doors functional and make sure everybody could get in and out of everything just fine. So that also had to make for like the few changes that I did with the furniture, because you can't like put a big dresser in front of a door. Obviously you wouldn't be able to get through, so you have to think about that kind of stuff when you're furnishing. But yeah, this is the bedroom with the extra bedroom off to the side of it, and I imagined it for 2 children. Very simple yet again. That theme of like the light powdery blue is going to be used pretty much throughout the furnishing. I did pull in some of the island living elements later on in various rooms, but I did just like this very like nautical sea feeling color scheme, which when I think of that, I do think of like white, light blue, and like maybe navy blue as like an accent color. So very nicely decorated, just very like minimalistic luxury in a way, and didn't take too long either, which is great because we did quite a few of them. But they have like the basics. Every sim needs a dresser, a bed, and then a mirror is sometimes helpful because then you can change your outfits. You can use it for like doing speeches and stuff like that. You can do it for like skill building. And then I like to add a TV to a couple of the rooms just to have the option there. So I did put a small TV on a couple of the dressers, and then some of the rooms ended up having a flat screen, which I imagine were like more of the luxury type of rooms, but very simple in nature, lots of tropical plants. And then for the second half of the bedrooms, I imagined singles, but for the very back, we're actually going to do a couple of public restrooms. So for those bathrooms, or excuse me, for those bedrooms that do not have their own shower, this is more of like the public shower bathroom area. And I've actually never been on a cruise ship, funny enough, so I don't really know what the situation is. I assume that most people in most rooms have their own type of bathroom, but the amount of tile space on this lot just really didn't grant something like that, so I did have to do it a little bit more public like that. But I wanted to have at least a few rooms that had their own bathroom, including the first 2 that we saw, and then the captain's quarters itself is actually going to have its own bathroom, because I feel like the captain would probably get their own little space bathroom and not have to share with the rest of the people on the ship, so that made a lot of sense to me to do so. And yeah, this is where we're dragging in like a couple of the island living elements. I was originally using a lot less of it, and I've been trying to, because from what I've seen, basically there's like a very 50-50 split on people who have already bought island living and people who have not. So I was attempting to go into this build maybe using it a little bit less than I have for previously dedicated island living builds, so that this could be like more functional for people who don't have it quite yet. But I did end up finding myself really itching to use it, especially because we are in Solani. So a couple of the rooms are really not island living-esque at all, and then a couple of them are almost entirely. But the cool thing about it is that, like I said before, you can just copy and paste rooms over. So if you didn't have island living, you could take some of the previous rooms that I decorated without using island living and just copy and paste them over. And the bulk of the ship itself is actually not island living based. So that makes it really downloadable for most people, I would say. Some of the plants and obviously the world we are in is not going to be island living, but we have other island, or not island, we have other water-ish lots. You can add your own water and things like that. To give that same effect, because it doesn't even matter. The ship can't move, so it has the same effect anyway. And the new stilted / dock-like foundation is actually a base game update, so makes it a little bit more accessible for some of you who haven't quite purchased it yet. And I am planning to do not a review of Island Living, but a sit down like chat video about Island Living, because I was going to go over on Twitter and talk about it a little bit, and this was like a week ago now, so a lot of people's opinions are actually already out there, and I'm kind of hesitating whether or not I should do one, because I only really like to do videos like that if I can add something to the conversation. But I've decided that I think it just makes sense for me to also put my opinion out there, just because I really feel like if you watch a certain creator, you're probably watching them because you enjoy their thoughts, maybe the things that they have to say on a certain subject. And also, everybody's perspective is a little bit different, and maybe somebody who has something to say on the pack that's a game player has a different opinion than maybe somebody who's more of a builder like myself. So I am planning to do the video, just sit down, chat a little bit about island living, give my thoughts and opinions, and basically my recommendation as far as purchasing or not. I'm not sure when that's going to come out because the 4th of July is this week, so my schedule is definitely screwed up because of that and a couple of other things that are going on, but the video will come out nonetheless, and hopefully it'll be helpful to those of you. And thank you to everybody who voted in my poll deciding whether or not to do that video. So I will do that video. It will be out. I can't give you a date, but hopefully soon. I'm gonna try and film it this week and get it out to you guys by the end of the week. Fingers crossed, maybe, hopefully. But yeah, so keep an eye out for that one. And we are actually doing the restaurant area or general dining. And I've played Pokemon Let's Go Eevee recently and did like the whole SS and, so that was in the back of my head when I was doing this. I couldn't necessarily remember like a cafeteria, but I did remember one of the rooms was a kitchen. And making this a livable space for Sims, it just made sense to obviously have more of like a kitchen dining area. So that's why we are going to be decorating this as such, rather than maybe some of my other Pokemon builds in the past have been more like replicas and I'll go through every room and do screenshots and stuff. This is very open-ended, and the shell is very much the SS and, but internally I just wanted it to be a very fun boat type of easy gameplay for your Sims. So yeah, it was important for me to do like a full dining area, restaurant, have functional stairs and things like that, and give options for different boats and different boat types, because I've seen quite a few like I said, cruise ships and yachts and boats like that, and they're all, you could make them residential or some of them are restaurants, but this one is the first steamboat that I have seen so far. And I know it's not like a technical steamboat, like it's not one of the old-fashioned ones, and there are obviously steam compartments on cruise ships and things like that, but the shell of this is obviously a little bit more leaning towards that general design of like a boat. So I thought it was just a fun different kind of ship that you guys could have if you wanted to, and it is already available for download on the gallery under my origin ID, theallegedsimmer, all one word, no custom content. You can also download my luxury cruise ship, which I designed as a residential or a restaurant. No, luxury yacht, sorry, I have not done a cruise ship, a luxury yacht. And I did a pontoon beach party, which is a different kind of boat that's very flat and made for, you know, walking around, partying, barbecuing, music, things like that. So got a little bit of variety over on my gallery if you'd like to go check it out and download some new beach themed lots or boat themed lots for your Sims in Solani. And we are down to pretty much the final part of this build, which is decorating the captain's quarters. Very sleek, a little bit darker blues, bring in some blacks, private bathroom. I did want him to actually have like their own bookshelf and dresser and like all of the appropriate things very privately so that they don't have to share with the rest of the ship. And it was a little bit of a squeeze, but we managed to get pretty much everything in there except for the sink. But I didn't think that was super important. Anyway, there are a couple of sinks downstairs, so shouldn't be too much of an issue. And we are going to be rolling into the screenshots actually any moment here. So that is going to be the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that little bell icon below to turn on post notifications so you can get updated every single time I post. And I will talk to you all in the next one.